It's one of the most frustrating paradoxes for men when a woman seems genuinely interested, deeply connected, emotionally engaged, and then, out of nowhere, pulls away. She stops responding as quickly, her tone changes, the warmth in her messages cools, and suddenly you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth many men overlook. Sometimes, when a woman pulls away, it's not because you did anything wrong at all. In fact, the very reason she's creating distance is because she cares. When a woman starts to feel something real, something deep, something vulnerable, it often triggers one of her most powerful internal defense mechanisms, withdrawal. You have to understand how much vulnerability costs her. In a world that constantly tells women not to be too emotional, not to get too attached, and definitely not to show too much need, allowing herself to want a man openly can feel terrifying. And for many women, emotional intimacy feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure whether the other person is going to catch them or let them fall. So instead of risking the fall, she steps back. This isn't immaturity, it's survival, it's learned behavior. Maybe she's opened up before and been met with silence. Maybe she gave her heart to someone who used it as leverage. Maybe every time she's gotten close to love, it's ended with betrayal, abandonment, or confusion. So when she finally meets a man who makes her feel again, really feel, her instincts don't say lean in, they say protect yourself, and that protection looks like distance. Cold texts, mixed signals, indifference that isn't real but rehearsed. Because if she keeps you at arm's length, maybe it won't hurt as much if you disappear. Maybe she won't look foolish for wanting you. Maybe she won't lose herself in a story she's too afraid to finish. But here's the deeper truth. She doesn't want to pull away. She wants to trust you. She wants to soften. She wants to let go of her fears and lean fully into connection. But trust for her is earned not with grand gestures, but with consistency. With your steadiness, with your emotional intelligence, with your ability to handle her vulnerability without making her feel like she's too much. That's why the men who succeed in these moments aren't the ones who chase harder or apply pressure. They're the ones who remain present, who give her space without pulling their own energy away, who say, through their actions, I'm not here to rush you, I'm here to see you. That steadiness builds trust, and trust dissolves fear. So if a woman you care about pulls away right when things feel most real, don't take it as rejection. Take it as a signpost, a signal that you're approaching her heart. And that heart has scars. You're not the cause of her fear, but you can be the space where that fear slowly loses power. Because the woman who pulls away when she cares is not trying to lose you. She's trying to see if your love is strong enough to stay even when she doesn't have the words to ask. A woman may meet a man who treats her right, speaks with intention, listens when she talks, and shows up emotionally in ways she's never experienced before. And yet, instead of embracing him fully, she begins to distance herself. She gets quiet. She avoids deeper conversations. She withdraws just when the connection starts to deepen, and the man is left confused, wondering how love that felt so real could be pushed away so abruptly. The answer lies in something that often goes unseen but runs deep: emotional residue from her past, unhealed wounds, lingering scars, emotional baggage that hasn't been unpacked, but instead buried in the hope that no one would ever touch it again. You see, many women have experienced relationships where their love was used against them, where openness was met with betrayal, where expressing their needs made them appear needy. So over time, their hearts became guarded, not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. They've learned to cope by protecting what matters most, their trust. And what's difficult for many men to understand is that love doesn't always enter an empty space. Sometimes love walks into a heart that's still occupied by ghosts of past heartbreaks, broken promises, emotional neglect, or even childhood wounds that were never fully addressed. That baggage doesn't just disappear when someone new comes along. In fact, someone healthy can often activate the very fears she's tried to suppress. When a man treats her with care and consistency, it forces her to face parts of herself she hasn't yet healed. It makes her wonder, do I even know how to receive love that isn't conditional? It challenges her self-worth. It questions her beliefs about men, about safety, and about whether love can last. So when she pulls away, it's often not about you. It's about what you're awakening within her. Your presence, your kindness, your steadiness, it all feels unfamiliar. And for a woman who's lived in emotional survival mode, unfamiliar doesn't always feel safe. It feels uncertain, risky, like love that might slip away the moment she leans in. This is why patience and emotional intelligence are non-negotiable in this space. Because healing isn't linear, and even the most confident, emotionally intelligent women can have moments where their trauma speaks louder than their heart. The key isn't to fix her or push her into vulnerability. It's to understand that real intimacy often requires space, not absence, but grace. A man who understands this doesn't take her distance personally. He sees it for what it is, her way of saying, I want to trust you, but I'm still learning how to trust myself. He doesn't overreact. He doesn't withdraw in return. He holds steady, not to prove himself, but to create the emotional conditions where she can choose to step forward, not be pulled. Because when a woman pushes you away, while simultaneously wanting to hold you close, it's not contradiction, it's conflict. And the man who navigates that conflict with empathy instead of ego becomes the safest place her heart has ever known. There's a moment in almost every growing connection where things begin to feel too good to be true. The conversation flows effortlessly, the chemistry is undeniable, and the emotional intimacy is building quietly in the background. Then suddenly, without warning, she starts to act distant. Her replies take longer, her tone shifts. And the man begins to wonder, did I misread this? Did I move too fast? What many men don't realize is that this shift is often not a sign of disinterest, it's a test. But not the kind that's about manipulation or playing games. This isn't about making him chase or jump through hoops. This is a subconscious emotional test designed to measure one critical thing, his emotional maturity. Women, especially women who have done some emotional work, aren't just attracted to looks, status, or charm. They're deeply tuned into something much more foundational, emotional safety. And emotional safety isn't built through words alone. It's revealed through action, especially in moments of tension or unpredictability. So when she pulls away or changes her tone, she's often watching carefully, not to punish, but to observe. She's watching to see if your energy shifts when hers does. She's watching to see if your ego flares up the moment she becomes less accessible. She's observing whether you panic, lash out, beg for attention, or whether you remain grounded, present, and emotionally attuned. That test is not about control, it's about certainty. She needs to know, can you handle her complexity without folding under pressure? Because, let's be honest, anyone can show up when things are easy. Anyone can flirt when it's lighthearted, text back when it's convenient, and be affectionate when the vibe is perfect. But can you stay emotionally centered when the dynamic shifts? Can you still see her clearly when she pulls back to protect herself? Can you stay steady without overstepping? Women test not because they want drama, but because they want to avoid investing in instability. They've learned that emotional strength isn't declared, it's demonstrated. And often, these tests are her way of asking a silent but profound question. Are you the kind of man I can be vulnerable with without being punished for it? The men who pass this test aren't reactive. They don't chase harder or retreat in defense. They acknowledge the shift, honor the space, and hold emotional consistency. They don't assume rejection. They don't accuse or overanalyze. Instead, they remain solid in their intention, clear in their energy, and calm in their response. That kind of presence is powerful because it tells her, you don't need to perform to keep me interested. You don't need to be perfect to feel safe. I'm here to meet you, not just your best days, but your fearful ones too. In a world full of men who flinch at emotional tension, the man who stands steady becomes unforgettable. So, the next time she tests your patience or pulls away when things are just starting to feel right, don't ask, what's wrong with her? Ask, can I be the calm she's trying to find? Because often, the man who stays grounded through uncertainty is the one she was secretly hoping to find all along. One of the most overlooked reasons a woman might push away a man she actually wants is deeply rooted in something that rarely gets addressed: social conditioning. From a very young age, women are taught both overtly and subtly that showing too much interest in a man is a risk. It's not just about emotional fear, it's about how she'll be perceived. Think about it. How often do you hear phrases like "let the man chase," "don't seem too available," or "he'll lose interest if you show you care too much"? These aren't just casual pieces of advice. They become internalized rules. Rules that shape how a woman feels she's allowed to express desire. So when a woman begins to genuinely like a man, her first instinct might not be to move closer. It might be to pull back just enough to maintain the illusion of control, of detachment, of not wanting it too much. This is not manipulation. This is survival in a dating culture that punishes vulnerability in women just as much as it does in men. A woman who openly expresses her feelings risks being labeled as too easy, too needy, or desperate. Even if her intentions are pure, the fear of social judgment is real. And that fear of being misunderstood, devalued, or dismissed can override even the strongest emotional pull she feels towards someone. So what you interpret as mixed signals may actually be her wrestling with two conflicting forces: her genuine desire for connection and the pressure to appear detached. It's a conflict between her emotional truth and societal expectations, and oftentimes, the deeper her interest in you, the stronger the internal tug-of-war becomes. Here's what emotionally intelligent men understand: women are not emotionless, nor are they endlessly mysterious. But they are often constrained by narratives that have taught them to suppress, to filter, to hide what they feel until it's safe to reveal it. So if she hesitates, it's not always because she's unsure about you. It might be because she's unsure how to be herself in a culture that penalizes her for doing so. This is where your role becomes pivotal, not in forcing her to open up, not in demanding reassurance, but in creating the kind of emotional climate where she feels free to drop the performance. Your consistency, your clarity, your grounded presence tells her, I'm not looking for a chase, I'm looking for truth. And when a woman feels that her guard begins to fall, not instantly, but steadily, because the reality is, most women don't want to play games, they play defense. And when a man shows he's not here to judge or punish their openness, when he shows he can hold space for all of her confidence and her hesitation, that's when she feels safe enough to show who she really is. So the next time she pulls back, even as her eyes say something different, don't react with frustration. Respond with understanding, because sometimes she's not hiding her feelings from you. She's unlearning how to hide them from everyone. And that kind of trust It takes time and a man who sees through the silence. Sometimes, when a woman pulls away from a man she deeply desires, it's not about him or her past or even societal expectations. It's about the timing of her own personal growth. Love, especially when it's real and deep, has a way of confronting us with ourselves. And for many women, especially those who are ambitious, self-aware, or emotionally evolving, falling for someone can trigger an internal conflict that runs deeper than most people realize. Because here's what no one tells you. Falling in love can feel like losing control. For a woman who has worked hard to build independence, confidence, or emotional self-sufficiency, surrendering to love, real, transformative love, can feel like a threat to everything she's built. Not because love is bad, but because love requires openness, and openness demands vulnerability. That vulnerability can feel like letting go of her carefully constructed identity. Suddenly, she's not just the career-focused woman or the emotionally strong woman. She's someone who wants someone, and that desire can feel destabilizing. She may ask herself questions like, am I ready to let someone in this deeply? Will I lose myself in this connection? Can I pursue this love without compromising the vision I have for my own life? These aren't surface-level doubts, woman who emelmed. A from N who soul and ses. I from her lives with soul and enlention lives with intention. They're existential ones, and when they arise, the instinct isn't always to move closer, it's often to create distance. To breathe, to reassess, to make sure she's not giving herself away before she's truly ready. What many men misinterpret as disinterest or inconsistency is often just a woman trying to protect the life and identity she's worked hard to cultivate. And if she's emotionally intelligent, she's not going to step into something that feels overwhelming or out of alignment with her current path, even if her heart is leaning toward it. This is where a man's patience becomes his greatest strength, because this isn't about pursuing harder or convincing her with words. It's about respecting her pace, giving her the space to do the internal work she needs to do, standing present, not passive, but grounded, not requiring her to be ready on your timeline, but holding space for when she becomes ready on hers. That's where emotional leadership comes in, not dominance, not control, but the kind of masculine presence that doesn't panic when a woman needs space to sort herself out. That communicates, I see your need for clarity, and I'm secure enough in myself to give you room to find it. And let me tell you, when a woman feels that kind of spaciousness, that absence of pressure, it doesn't push her further away. It draws her in, because it's not just love she's looking for. It's freedom within love, the ability to be with someone without having to sacrifice herself. So if she pulls away during her own growth journey, don't take it as rejection. Take it as a signal that something real is unfolding, and real love requires readiness, not urgency. The man who honors her timing instead of demanding her presence becomes the one she returns to, not because she was chased, but because she was understood. There's one final layer to why a woman might push away a man she truly wants. And it's arguably the most tender, most human of them all. It's fear, not the surface-level kind, but a deeply embedded fear of losing herself to love again, and that fear doesn't come from nowhere. It's usually born from a history, a story, of having loved fully before and being met with disappointment, betrayal, or abandonment. You see, for many women, love isn't just about connection, it's about risk. Every time she allows herself to fall for someone, she's opening up old rooms inside her heart. Rooms that might still echo with the memory of being hurt after trusting too quickly. And even if you're not the one who caused that pain, your presence can still awaken the ghosts of past love, because real emotional intimacy has a way of shining light on every corner we thought we'd already healed. When she pulls away, it may not be because she doubts you. It might be because she's still unsure if she can trust herself. Can she trust that this time will be different? Can she trust that she won't lose her identity again, that she won't silence herself just to be loved, that she won't ignore red flags in the name of potential? These are the unspoken questions playing in the background, even as she smiles at your texts or laughs at your jokes. And here's the paradox: the more she feels for you, the more vulnerable she becomes to those internal questions. Because the deeper her interest, the higher the emotional stakes. That's when fear creeps in disguised as doubt, withdrawal, or overthinking. It's her subconscious way of protecting her heart, of putting up a shield before it gets shattered again. The men who understand this don't get angry when she hesitates. They don't punish her emotional pauses. Instead, they recognize them as a sign that something real is unfolding, something that matters enough to scare her a little. And rather than reacting with ego or insecurity, they respond with groundedness, with gentleness, with emotional intelligence. They don't push her to open up, they invite her. They create emotional space, not pressure. They show her, through consistency, not performance, that they're not here to repeat the past, but to help rewrite it. And that kind of energy, that quiet, powerful reassurance, it becomes the very thing that helps her lower the shield and lean into trust again. Because when it comes down to it, most women don't want perfection. They want safety, not just physical or financial safety, but emotional safety. The safety to be soft without being hurt, to be real without being rejected, to fall without having to fear the landing. So if she's pulling away, don't take it personally, take it seriously, not as a sign to chase her harder, but as a call to show up softer. Because the man who understands that fear isn't a barrier, but a doorway to deeper love, is the man who becomes unforgettable.